It's time again this week for the Take on the News from the left, right, and middle with Sirius XM radio talk show host David Webb and award-winning journalist Karen Hunter. Okay, unfortunately, we don't have a whole lot of time, so let's get started. Let's talk about this landmark decision that the Supreme Court made just yesterday about voters' rights. I want to read this very quickly. Chief Justice John Roberts said this: "Our country has changed." He goes on to say, while any racial discrimination in voting is too much, Congress must ensure that the legislation it passes to remedy that problem speaks in current condition. Contrastly, Ruth Bader Ginsburg said that this decision was a disservice to Americans.
Absolutely.
Karen, go ahead.
Well,
start.
Congress had already decided it. They reauthorized it 92-0 in the Senate, 330-32 in the House of Representatives. It's already been decided. And he's right. The country has changed, but not enough to deny even one person a right to vote freely in this country without having to stand in line for 6 hours, without having to put up with shenanigans, as Mark Morial pointed out, that has happened throughout the South today. It's ridiculous that this is even still under discussion.
Has the country changed? Are we past it?
Let's put it this way. If 97% of blacks in exit polls voted in 2008 for Obama and 93% in this last election, according to exit polls, apparently voter suppression isn't working. Also, the country has changed. What they did was they upheld Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. They attacked the formula in Section 4, which says that this is the formula you use for states that need pre-clearance. By the way, the South, highest voting rates is down in these southern states that claim to have a disparity under a 40-year-old formula. Right now, the state with the worst voting record for blacks in the country is Massachusetts. Therefore, by striking it down and sending it back to the Congress to say either we need a new formula, which is 40 years old, which doesn't apply today by the numbers, that's what you should do. All other acts were upheld. This is not Melissa Harris Perry said that her citizenship was over. Chris Hayes cried himself to sleep. And the left is apoplectic over the fact that we have advanced as a society, the numbers have changed, and the facts
David,
are different.
The fact that we have that voter turnout, it speaks more to the I don't want to even use that word, the fortitude of black folks to stand in line for 6 hours to
not
cast
everyone
their vote.
stood in line for 6 hours.
And not everyone, but it speaks to a certain character that many people died for us to have the right. So we're going to stand in line and vote.
You're making an emotional argument over the facts
as they.
Reality. Karen, when was the last time you went down to one of these states and looked at the voting there?
I actually live in Florida, as I mentioned.
Okay, no, Alabama, Mississippi, and these states. I've been there. When was the last time you were there?
I was there in November.
But isn't there an issue? I mean, you stated statistics about the voting pattern of African Americans.
The voting pattern of all.
I know, but what you just said was
blacks.
about 97% of blacks voted for Obama the first time, 93% the second time.
Right.
You're talking about the ones who did vote, who could vote.
Right.
Isn't this decision about the ones who get eliminated or get excluded?
First of all, elimination of votes is not a black or white issue or a gender issue. It happens in all cases. And we have seen this. Even in the 2000 election in Michigan, more votes were excluded in Michigan than they were in Florida.
But David, what's our goal? What's our goal as a nation? Our goal as a nation is to ensure that every single human being
your rights to vote are guaranteed.
Right. That's
period.
our goal.
End of story.
Period. So why not do it? If Congress already reauthorized it and said, yes, let's reauthorize it.
Congress is wrong in this case.
They're not wrong. 92-0? John Boehner voted for this.
Yes, and he's wrong. In this case, the numbers have changed. The country has changed. We are not. If anybody watching this thinks that this country is what it was before the Voting Rights Act, they're ignorant or willingly stupid or trying to push a lie.
That's irrelevant.
Well, aren't you sort of painting quite a bit of a broad brush? Because, yes, we have changed.
She just painted a broad brush that this country hasn't changed.
I did not say that. I never said that.
Karen can speak for herself. What I'm saying is we have changed, but we haven't changed in all ways. And to say that we've changed enough.
Okay, then how do you guarantee every single instance? Do you guarantee it by then continuing discriminatory practices where the states don't have the right to do what is right within the time and the moment?
They want to do. Yeah, you know what? There is a history here.
Karen,
the fact that Georgia and South Carolina feels
like
the fact that Georgia and South Carolina feels bad about being considered racist in 2013.
So is Georgia racist to you, Karen Hunter?
It doesn't matter
yes
whether
or no. Is Georgia racist?
If there's one person in Georgia who does not have the right to vote freely, then yes.
You know what the problem is with the left? They love moral equivalency.
Who's on the left?
You.
No, I'm not.
Like direct questions.
I'm actually a libertarian.
Okay, let me
newsflash.
But isn't it
Well,
an
then
issue
you're
that
not
many of
being-
these states that do try to impose these extra restrictions on who
What
gets
extra
to vote
restrictions?
are southern states and
What
states
extra
that have had a
restrictions?
history of providing a
No,
federal...
what extra restrictions?
I'm about to say it. Providing a federal issued
he's on his
ID.
He's on his mantra.
Providing a federal issued ID when it's not required on the
A
federal form.
state-issued ID, actually, not a federally issued ID. In the United States, we only have one federally issued ID. That is a passport, and no state requires that. You can use it in place of a state-issued ID.
All right, so you answered your own question.
Number
And who
two,
cares?
states that want to require voter ID have been upheld, as in Michigan, as in other states. Number two, how do you address Massachusetts then, which now has, under a black governor and a very liberal state where Ted Kennedy came from, the worst voting record, including last night's election, the worst turnout in American history, or rather in current times.
All right.
You don't address it, it's not a southern state.
We're going to have to
Use the
stop it right
facts.
there. All right. Thank you, David Webb, Karen Hunter. We appreciate it as always. We'll see you again next week. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow on Arise America, full coverage of the trial of George Zimmerman. Have a good day.